very much for the invite. It's great to talk with such a great team of people. It's quite an exciting week for us. We're actually going to be closing our seed round imminently, hopefully in the next few days. Two of the co-founders are about to submit their PhDs. So as of tomorrow, we move into our new offices. So it's a really exciting time. My name is Owen. I'm the CEO of Slamcore and co-founder. So I'm going to tell you a bit about why the technology that we're working on we believe is the key to enabling the robotic, AR, and VR industries. So let's go straight into it. So what do these products have in common? So we have the autonomous car, AR, VR headset, drones, and mobile robotics. Apart from maybe they've all suffered from a bit of overpromise and under-delivery over the last few years, the key thing that they all have in common is they are platforms which have onboard sensors that need to answer two very fundamental questions. When they're put into an environment that they've never been before, they need to know where they are in that world and what their world looks like. If you can't answer those questions, you have absolutely no hope in navigating around without crashing into something, or from an AR, VR perspective, projecting some form of virtual reality into someone's field of view that looks like it's actually part of the real world. And the real problem is these two questions are intrinsically linked. So you end up with a chicken or the egg challenge which you need to overcome. You can't know where you are in a world if you don't have some form of accurate representation of it. But you can't build an accurate representation of your world if you don't know where you are. But fortunately, and for those of you who don't know what SLAM is, this is what SLAM is all about: simultaneous localization and mapping. It's a problem that researchers have been tackling for over 20 years, so it's something that is very well understood within the research community. Not solved, but it's very well researched. And if it was solved, we wouldn't be here. So this simultaneous localization mapping is a core concept which is all about trying to answer those two fundamental questions. And the design of the algorithms that produce the answer to those questions, that's what Slamcore does. So another way of looking at it is that we take the information presented from various types of sensors. So it could be an RGB camera at the top there, a depth camera like your Microsoft Kinect. We've got an IMU, we've got an event camera, which I'll tell you a bit about in a second. We process that information in such a way that you can give an accurate location and map to the system that you're trying to control. So I hope you can see that the answering that question is absolutely fundamental to the success of all of these industries. And quite frankly, if you can't answer that question properly in the real world and on affordable hardware, then those numbers at the bottom, they were never going to hit those kind of numbers. We'll definitely have platforms out there which will be great, but they're not going to be selling billions of units or millions of units in the foreseeable future if you don't do that properly. And I'll let you into a secret: the current solutions are not good enough. Like I say, there are solutions that will give some form of products, but if we want to get the mass market, millions of units selling for hundreds of pounds, it's not there. Self-driving cars, they will crash if they have too much light shining into the vision, into the cameras. If you're worried about Terminator taking over the world, go Google DARPA Grand Challenge robotics and see how they actually managed to cope with unstructured environments, spent most of the time on the floor. Drones are great, but as soon as you put them on autonomous mode, they will crash. It might be 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 times, but that's nowhere near the levels of performance we need to get this technology out there in the real world in any kind of meaningful way. And probably one of the biggest things that have come out in the VR, we're about to have a VR revolution, so everyone's going to be watching films at home with VR headsets. We're not going to actually interact with it anymore. It's all going to be in VR. But the reality is 50% of people can't use it for more than 15 minutes without being sick. So we are never going to get to that point. And the problem is with current technologies, current hardware, we're a long way off. But luckily, this is where we come in. We wouldn't have set up a company in this space if we didn't think there was actually some potential behind it. And we have three key things that we believe are going to enable these industries. First of all, we have an amazing team. So the first two students there, they send their apologies. They are literally handing in their PhDs this week. So if you've got a PhD, you'll know how horrible that experience is. But they'll be working as of the end of the week full time for Slamcore. They are deep experts in computer vision and SLAM, but also they have between nearly 20 years of industrial experience because they didn't go straight into PhDs after their undergrads. We have two Imperial academics. Dr. Stefan Luthenegger from ETH Zurich came to the Imperial Lab a couple of years ago, deep expert in sensor fusion, so being able to stitch together different types of sensor to create a probabilistic representation of the world. We've got Professor Davison sat over there. He's one of the world leaders in SLAM technology. He really is an absolute, it's great to have him as part of the team, one of the co-founders, and will be working part-time for Slamcore as well. And then myself, I've got a background in commercialization of technology from universities and getting out of the lab into the real world. We have money, and this is something we haven't announced yet, and unfortunately I left the two investors at the bottom because we haven't signed the deal yet, so I haven't been able to put them in just yet, but we can announce we have just closed our first seed round of £1 million. We have Imperial Innovations on board, which means we have all the contracts in place to make sure that all the IP is clean and everything that we generate is going to be Slamcores to use. And then we have Amadeus Capital, obviously a great VC to have behind us as well. And finally, we have the technology. So I've got 3 minutes to try and describe this to you, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you want to know more about this, please come talk to me, and I'll probably pass you on to Andy. We have a huge amount of experience of putting together SLAM solutions with traditional sensors. So the standard sensors we have on the left there. But we have been working very hard on SLAM on a new type of sensor. And this is where I want to kind of take you for the last part of the presentation. How many people have heard of the event camera before? Great. No, so not a huge amount of people, 2 people. This is a completely new paradigm in camera technology. It's actually been around for about 10 years, but the problem is it produces information in such a different way that you can't just use standard vision algorithms. They just fall apart. You have to start from scratch. So the basic premise of an event camera and I won't go into detail, but is instead of exposing an array of pixels like you do within a standard camera, and then you have concepts of frames, there is no concept of frames in the event camera. Every pixel is separate, and all it's doing is looking and analysing the photons that are hitting it, and if it gets lighter or darker, it sends an event, and that event will have a timestamp and either a positive or negative event, depending on if it's got lighter or darker. So much like in the dinosaur here in Jurassic Park, if you don't move, the event camera won't generate any form of information. Another way of looking at it is if we're trying to visualize this spinning disk, a standard camera is going to take pictures maybe one every 30, 50, 100 times a second, but you'll see that black disk move in space, and the two-dimensional image will something that we'll recognize as a picture of a spinning disk from any one frame. But an event camera, completely different setup. We end up with this very, very smooth kind of visualization of what the event camera produces. And that has huge benefits from a SLAM point of view. Because we don't have an exposure which has to be set for the entire scene, we're able to resolve light and dark in the same picture. So if I pointed an event camera at the sun in a cave, tried to take a picture at the same time, we would be able to resolve both. Whereas a camera would either only be able to see what was in the cave, or the sun, it would get blinded by that. And that speaks to the car problem I talked about earlier. Because we don't have frames, we don't have suffer from motion blur. So we're able to cope with much faster speeds, which is really going to be a key to the success of the drone market. And probably crucially, if we want to start seeing the AR and VR solutions on any form of kind of affordable hardware, maybe on your mobile phone, we need to get the amount of data that's being generated down by a huge amount, and the amount of power that's needed to process that data. And that's really one of the biggest benefits of the event camera, is because you're not generating data when there's no movement, you don't have any redundant data. From a vision point of view, you only have data when things are actually moving, which is what you need. And because you're not processing anywhere near as much information, you can get away with much lower power processors, which feeds into doing this on affordable hardware. Like I said, you can't just take standard vision algorithms and port them across to the event camera. So we need to think of another way of tackling this. And you could make artificial frames by doing some kind of processing on the information you're getting from the camera, but that's really just introducing in another step. You lose all those benefits of data and power. And this is what we've been busy doing. We've actually successfully shown that you can build a full working SLAM solution just with an event camera and working in real time. And actually, we presented this last year, the Slamcore team, at one of the world leading vision conferences, ECCV, and we won the best paper at that conference. And from an academic point of view, one of the highest achievements you can get in this space. And you can see there is a full reconstruction of a space complete with depth, just by moving an event camera around. So we've shown that the information is available and that we can really make this work. So finally, I've got to sum up, what's next? We really have the team, the technology, and the money to do what we want to do. It's all about really delivery now. We know that the market is crying out for this because we've heard it from the horse's mouth. And we believe that we can be the partner of choice for providing SLAM solutions to any company that wants to deliver the best-in-class products. Because if any one of those companies, AR, VR, cars, drones, is successful, they're going to create products which are going to really revolutionise the world. And we think we have the technology that could be the key to doing that. Thanks.